Hey, how are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. We're twinsying on the club on the shirts today.
Yeah, yeah. I'm in what's your color? Is yours just red? Because mine's like fluorescent pink. I'll change my lighting though you can see it.
Is that right? Oh, you're in fluorescent pink. That's
It's
hot.
like yeah, but it's good to
I'm
see you.
good
Um
to see you.
I was telling everyone briefly actually, we met in London about a week ago. We got a selfie, which I still haven't posted yet for everyone to
Yeah.
see.
Yes, this is what we did in London.
Yes, we had a that in London. Yes, we had a couple of that in London. It was
It was nice. It
fun.
was very nice just to get out. It's funny because we talk virtually all the time. People talk virtually all the time. And it's fun to actually get in front of them and meet them and find out they're exactly the same.
Oh, oh,
you
that's
know.
never been the case. Everyone just says, "Oh, you look. Oh, I thought you would be shorter, or I thought you'd be fatter, or someone thought I thought you'd be more brown," which I didn't know what that meant. I was
Yeah, what
like,
does that mean?
well, I think they meant more tanned, but he was from Africa, so he sort of said it in an incorrect way. Anyway, I don't know. But yeah, you look really smart as well. Was that for your interview that you had after our pub date?
Um, no, it was just one of those days. When I travel, most people, when they see me on like the Black Men Spy podcast, I'm in a t-shirt. But I was the intelligence and counterterrorism analyst and correspondent for MSNBC for 7 years.
Nice.
And so I was in a suit and a tie forever, right? And so this is my writing office. So when I'm writing, I'm like, I'm gonna be relaxed. So I do my shows, in a t-shirt, or usually we're trying to send a message in the t-shirts and things like that. Rarely do I wear a collared shirt. But I give speeches. I go around. I do a lot of public speaking. Of course, I do consulting. So I'm in a suit a lot of the time. And when I'm in London, I want to look smart, right?
Yeah,
Especially when
you
I'm
look
out
great. No, you're wearing
tippling.
yeah, well, we had a good couple of drinks and then we both had interviews to rush off to, but it was a nice brief meeting and
Yeah.
talked about everything as well from Iran to Israel. I was just telling the audience actually, I think Israel's looking pretty it's not looking great for Netanyahu right now. He's been stuck in
Yeah.
the middle of this and his entire strategy for what has been years is now going completely the opposite way. I mean, I'm really wondering what you think about how it just
Well,
looks like the US-Israeli relationship is falling apart, doesn't it?
there's two components to that. There's the U.S. relationship with Trump, which is a completely different animal with the relationship with the American people. But with regard to Netanyahu, there's the relationship with Trump and his administration. Then there's the relationship between Netanyahu and the courts. Today he was it today or is it yesterday? He went in and was the first day of his trial. He's going into his trial phase for his public corruption, practically. A lot of people don't realize that. People believe Netanyahu carried out and sustaining these wars. Tell me if this sounds familiar, to stay out of jail. And don't forget, it was just 2 weeks ago, Trump said not publicly, but he said it to the news media, then confirmed it. If it wasn't for me, Netanyahu, you'd be in prison, by his support and his ability to have the United States back Israel up on all these crazy ideas. But now we have this rift, and I've been saying this on like Mario Nawafal's show and my show. Decoupling is a word that people need to learn here. We have been seeing this massive, rapid decoupling between the interest of the United States and the interest of Israel. And to a certain extent, and this was predicted by many people, myself included, that Netanyahu saw in Trump the one guy who would carry out the one thing that no other president of the United States would do, which is an insane, non intelligence based attack on Iran, which would stir up not just a hornet's nest, 93 million hornets, right? And every president said no. And every president was told the exact same lie that they were told to Donald Trump, which was, Israel assesses that Iran is 2 weeks or an hour or whatever away from an atomic bomb. The first time I heard Netanyahu say that was 40 years ago. 40 years ago. He was out on beating the circuit, and every president, from George W. Bush and everyone on, he kept saying, we have to attack Iran. You have to come with us to do it, or else they'll have an atomic bomb in no time. Barack Obama actually called his bluff on that. You might recall that Netanyahu said, if you don't do it, we will have to use an atomic bomb to do it. And Obama was like, yeah, okay, go ahead. I mean, that's bad. So when you have this, this up to this point, reality and realpolitik guiding the United States policy, then you have Donald Trump, who's like, yeehaw, fuck the law. Let's go with Netanyahu. Netanyahu came and he said, we're going to do this. U.S. intelligence came the next day and said, bullshit. Everything he just told us was bullshit. Trump didn't care. He believed in the concept that he was going to be a great president who would do something no other president would do. And Netanyahu stroked that ego. Boom, war happens. We're at day 118. Trump finally sees the light that what was actually going to happen was the global economy and the U.S. economy were going to collapse. And Trump finally, just a week ago, said it out loud at the G7. We have to stop this war, right? The economy is going to collapse. And
why is it taken so long for the US to, I don't know, why is it taking a war of this magnitude for there to be finally a wake-up call of like, we really need to, I don't know, change, alter, diminish our relationship with the Israelis?
Yeah.
Like best part of 40 years.
Yeah. Well, you have to understand, as I was saying earlier, the previous best part of 40 years was reality-based. It was realpolitik. They were going on the internals of relationship, of U.S. domestic politics, and then going on the relationship with Israel. It was amicable. It was, excuse me one second. It was based on some defense priorities, but it was not the enmeshing of U.S. foreign policy and Israeli foreign policy to be one foreign policy, the way Trump did it. Netanyahu's understood Trump like most major leaders. They use psychologists to do an intelligence, to do an evaluation of Trump's ability to govern and what would it take to manipulate him. Just praise, right? Everyone knows that. Netanyahu used it. The Iranians are using it right now. But again, Trump, for the 12-day war, which he calls the 12-day war last year, Operation Midnight Hammer, and then the 6 months of planning with Israel, right? It was Hegseth who told us that after last year, U.S. and Israel's intelligence agencies and armed forces have been working nonstop for months to actually carry out this operation. And then we struck as a team, right? Operation Rising Lion, Operation, whatever this was, Epic Fury.
Fury, yeah. Well, you've heard that one a million times. It's not that new.
It's epic failure.
Well, I think,
to be quite honest, no, it has been an epic failure. It will tally not on Wikipedia, but in all parts of the world. It is the United States has lost a major war and is now paying our opponents to keep the peace so that the global economy and American economy don't collapse. So the phrase here that, again, I think you should use is the great decoupling started when someone apparently sat Trump down 3 weeks ago Friday and said, hey, you've had Netanyahu on this shoulder as your little devil poking you, along with Pete Hegseth and Lindsey Graham, saying attack Iran with everything we got, invade with ground troops, do whatever you have to do to get rid of the regime, collapse the regime. And on the other hand, suddenly after 100 and some odd days, you had people with real money saying, hey, all that money you made us, even though you damaged us with tariffs, we're talking trillions of dollars worth of money is about to be lost, because if this doesn't clear up, if the Strait of Hormuz doesn't open up in the next few weeks, then we will go to, what do they call it? Tank empty, right? Tank bottom, where every oil refinery and tank in the world will not be able to keep up with the lack of oil that is decreasing constantly. People think that oil is barrels going into tubes, and it's so long as you keep pressure going, it's ad infinitum. That's sort of true, but the pressure comes from a swimming pool of oil, and swimming pools, as you use them, is if evaporation is the world's usage of oil, it goes down, and we're getting to where the suction pumps are going to have nothing in it, and the replacement water flow is a garden hose, but the usage is a fire hose. And Trump defied this reality forever. Even the markets were constantly betting that Trump would be correct. Trump would get the Iranians to do stuff, which is why oil didn't go to $200 a barrel in the futures market. But in the physical oil market, where you would roll a barrel off a tanker or off a truck in the Middle East, it was as high as $175 a barrel. Oil that was getting out was being sold in Asia for jet fuel, reached $250 a barrel. I mean, it was crazy in the physical market. But the problem is, and this is where things are going to get real interesting, Pyotr. The Strait of Hormuz isn't really open.
No, not again.
Well, no, it's not.
How do you know this? How are you the only person who knows this, Malcolm?
Well, I'm not the only person who knows it. It's that everyone is believing Trump's lies. The oil that is flowing out of the Strait of Hormuz today, let's factor the last day that we did a count of ships, is Iranian oil. It's Iranian oil, and it's going through the Iranian traffic separation scheme. Okay? We are not seeing 300 ships. That was the pre-day in and out of the Strait of Hormuz. Yesterday, 25 ships went out. Almost all of them were carrying Iranian oil.
So let me just ask on that then. So we've seen this report, these news ideas of this big humanitarian evacuation, the IMO, the International Maritime Organization. What's that about then? Is that because the ships aren't actually leaving, or is that completely like...
No, this is fantasy baseball. I mean, this has been prepped for since February 28th, right? Noon on February 28th, Persian Gulf time, Israel struck that place. And everyone knew the Iranians were going to go nuts within hours and attack every ship coming in or leaving the Persian Gulf. Of course, the people who closed the Strait of Hormuz were not the Iranians. It was the insurance companies, Lloyd's of London, who said, hey, high risk situation, right? IMO was calling this, the International Maritime Organization was calling this critical risk environment, because all of these ships with its oil payload were worth $1 billion, right? $100 million for the ship, oil at $175 a barrel or thereabouts. Let's call it $100 a barrel. Carrying 50 million barrels or something, you're $500 million. Are you going to sail that through the strait and then eat a cruise missile and go aflame? Because the Iranians over the next 3 days started attacking ships. They set one afire, and then they actually kept using it for target practice so they can make sure people could see it burn, right? It was Lloyd's of London and all other insurers that stopped the ships coming out. Those ships were stuck in the Persian Gulf, right? In Arabian Gulf, Persian Gulf, whatever you want to call it. And where they were stuck was in the anchorages. But the ships still had to pay the crews. The ships still had to do maintenance on the engines. They had to have at least a little bunkering fuel in those ships so that the diesels could keep operating to provide what we call hotelier services, right? Fuel, food, water, all that stuff. Then you had to have chandlers come out and bring food to the ships. You didn't just leave the ship at anchor and then go into Dubai and party at, the Sofitel or, some of the big restaurants down there. No, you had to stay on the ship. These guys are getting paid. Some of these guys, these seamen, they're not getting paid $150,000 a year. They're getting paid $25,000 a year, $30,000. These are Filipino, Indian, guys from the subcontinent whose job, just maybe able-bodied seaman or mechanic, but they're not the first mate, they're not the captain, right? The ship's master. They're not getting paid big bucks, but they have to stay on that ship and maintain it. Now, let's say the average ship had 30 guys, right? That's 30 times 300, right? What is that? 3,000. these are guys who have to stay there. And Trump came out with this bullshit when he started the first phase of the ceasefire, which was 40 days into the war, for day 41. He was out there going, we're going to do Project Freedom, right? Which was his idea of a freedom of navigation operation, which I just don't even know who advises this guy. Can't be anyone who's a real professional. Where we're going to sail U.S. warships to the east and west points of the Strait of Hormuz on the southern side, the Omani side, where it's very shallow, around the Musanda Peninsula, and we were going to provide anti-drone defenses with these two ships. And he expected, this is mindless, he expected a conga line of 300 ships to come flowing through, sort of like when you put a state trooper or two cops at the end of a bridge while there's construction going on one side. He expected all the traffic in the Strait of Hormuz to suddenly come through that route and leave. But he forgets something that is fundamental. They are not moving, not because of combat, but because of insurance companies. And every time he did this, combat would break out. And then U.S. forces would fly 30 miles north and then start dropping bombs all over Iran. And insurance companies would go, we're not moving any ships. There's combat going on. So this is absolute madness. It's incompetence of the highest order. I've been through the Strait of Hormuz a dozen times. In wartime, in peacetime, all the time on U.S. warships. I used to live in Bahrain. I lived in the United Arab Emirates. I've sailed all around every inch of that country. I've even fought Iran in Iranian waters. During all of that time, until February 28th of this year, the Strait of Hormuz has never closed. Never closed. Was it high risk to transit? Sure, but it was never closed. The old days, the risk was one or two anti-ship missiles, maybe a threat of mines, but mainly high-speed small boats with guys.
So let me ask you this then. So I love it when you get, I can't, for lack of a better word, animated, but I love the passion, mate. No, but I love it because it shows the experience that you have, the first hand.
But I have zero tolerance for stupid. I have zero tolerance for stupid, and I am looking at a wall of stupid and incompetence here. And every day in the war, they were like, well, what could we do now? And weren't they told by Netanyahu that the country would collapse so fast the Strait of Hormuz would never close?
Well, on that point, so the U.S. Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, said earlier that 20 million barrels of oil have exited Hormuz in the past 24 hours. And he blamed Iranian mines in the hang on, just let me read this here, in the vital waterway for any delay in a return to normal oil shipping levels. What do you say to that? How much more bollocks is that?
Well, I mean, okay.
He's lost for words.
He's right. 20 million barrels of oil have departed the Persian Gulf.
The Iranian.
Via the Iranian traffic separation scheme. And many of them are Iranian tankers. Yes, some Iraqi crude is now coming through. Yes, some Kuwaiti crude is now coming through. But 2 million barrels, the average VLCC carries 2 million barrels of oil, right? That's a very large crude carrier, carries 2 million barrels of oil. For him to say 20 million barrels came out in the last 24 hours, well, that's 10 VLCCs, okay? Not the 50, 75, 100 that used to come out every day. A billion barrels of oil used to come out. It's mind-boggling. They are using. We have this thing. When I was a survival evasion resistance and escape instructor, I used to teach my guys, these tactics. When you're interrogated by the enemy, they're going to get the truth. They're going to get answers out of you. You got to know when to open your mouth. But what we want you to tell them are facts, not the truth. We want to tell you the facts. Those facts generally don't line up to the truth, right? So when they go, hey, 20 million barrels of oil has emerged from the Persian Gulf in the last 24 hours. Fact, truth, Those 20 million barrels were overwhelmingly Iranian oil on Iranian contracted ships coming from Kharg Island and other Iranian ports. That's the difference between Trump and the Iranians. The Iranians will straight up tell you, all those are coming from our ports. They're telling the truth. The Trump administration tries to take some piddly little statistic and turn it into some amazing fact. It's absolutely incredible that anyone would believe them. But is oil flowing? Yes, it is trickling out. 10% of what would normally come if the Gulf was completely open in pre-February 27th, 2026 flows of oil traffic in there. There wouldn't be a humanitarian risk of ships that their insurance companies won't let them out. The ships companies won't let them out. They would rather burn through the chandlering and the diesel so that the vessel doesn't go through with a cargo load of 2 million barrels of oil and then explode and then catch fire. And then the insurance companies on the hook for oil that they said, hey, we warned you not to get that ship underway. Now you got to replace that. Not only that, and I told people about this early on in the war.
Yeah, but Malcolm, one of the things that really frustrates me, as well, what I like to believe is sampling numbers. How many times have we heard from this administration, or just Trump, or just France, that the strait has been open, only for it to be then, well, it wasn't fully open, but now it is. They change their tune every day. There's a shift in narrative. There's a shift in perspective. There's a different framing. There's blame shaming. There's a sane washing. There's all these sorts of things that are going on to try and make the average individual who's not following this, but just worries about their cost of living crisis, being taken for fools. So how many times does the Trump administration think it can pull the wool over people's eyes?
Every day, because he's not talking to the world. You got to understand, all of this bullshit is talking to one person, Donald Trump. And so long as he believes it, this man doesn't exist in reality. He doesn't. He has dementia. He is an old man. And I'm talking as an old guy, right? That's going to be up there in a decade or two, a couple of decades. This guy deals in creating a false universe. And that false universe he would prefer to live in. And all the sycophants that are around him, you cannot tell him the truth. You cannot. Anyone that does, and this is why I think there was a breakthrough with of all the very rich men who went to him and said, we're not going to lose billions. We're not going to lose tens of billions if the SOH is still closed. We're going to lose trillions, and you are going to suffer for it. And by July 4th weekend, U.S. gasoline will be at $6 a gallon. And he finally woke up to that. That was 3 weeks ago. He did that. And then next thing you know, he's blasting away at Iran and telling them that he doesn't want the MOU signed. Pyotr, let me tell you this one last thing. The reason you can't believe Donald Trump is he's a pathological liar. Documented. The most documented liar in American history. Do you know that? There is no person at the end of his first term, when they stopped counting the number of lies that man told, it was 33,000. There is no other person on the books in the United States as a government service person or a person who worked for the public that has ever documented anything like that. It's got to be 4 times that amount. He has always been a liar. And the problem is you have people out there. I'm an intelligence professional. I will never lie about something that involves the safety and security of the people of the United States. He understands that his base of 37% of the United States will absolutely believe his lies because he is not a leader. He is an avatar. He is a representative of the hateful, mean-spirited, racist, white supremacist America that has been promised by him that they will rule over the other 65% of America if you let him do whatever you want. And they have so come to inculcate that and believe it, they give him a pass for everything. child rape, it's having sex with underage teenage girls. Halas, no problem. We don't care about that. It's a liberal plot, and Jeffrey Epstein is a made-up fantasy document. There's 3 million documents on record with him mentioned 38,000 times. It's a lie. Liberals just say that. These people are in a cult, all right? And I have studied cults. Al-Qaeda was a cult. ISIS was a cult. I have a good friend, Dr. Steve Hassan, expert on cults, who wrote a book called The Cult of Trump. They believe it because they feel that he is speaking for them. He tells them he won the Iran war. I got to fight every day with people on Twitter or on Substack, wherever, where they go, well, we won that. Look at all the bombs we dropped. We dropped bombs on Vietnam, 3 times the amount ever dropped in World War II. Well, Vietnam's still a communist country that makes our Nikes, right? Ask the liberal government of Afghanistan how they're now a liberal democracy because we dropped hundreds of thousands of tons of bombs on them. It's a lie, all right? And as a professional, I cannot, it's like a doctor who sees you hemorrhaging out of your throat and you put 2 fingers on it and you go, I'll be okay. And he goes, you're going to be dead in 4 minutes. But he has a group of people around them that'll go, yeah, you'll be okay. People have died because of that man's lies. Right now, the count in Iran is 6,000 dead, including, we know, 162 schoolgirls. When I was in the Persian Gulf in 1988, we had the USS Vincennes shoot down a civil airliner in defiance of all intelligence, right? Killed 296 civilians. We had people in this country saying they filled an airliner with bodies of dead people and let us shoot it down. How about no? We did it. The truth is easier to handle than you lying to yourself and the world. Trump lives in a land of lies. It's like, one last thing. It's like Jeffrey Dahmer, right? Jeffrey Dahmer insisting that he is a vegetarian. It's like you got a refrigerator full of human body parts. And he goes, oh, they're delicious, but I'm a vegetarian. In this crazy MAGA world, Trump's a vegetarian. He's also the best looking guy. He's slim, he's slender, right? He's super athletic. Women love him, right? His wife is an adoring person who is one of the most brilliant people. Look, people, these people lie. And other people, maybe even your life depends on not believing lies when they are expressed to you. Oh, by the way, the Strait of Hormuz is pretty much closed, but Iran has it open for themselves.
Look, for the time that I spent in Washington, I actually dated a girl who was the deputy political officer for NASA, just on the auspices of COVID, right at the outset of COVID, and she took me to a couple of events where he was at, and when you just sort of see someone who you just innately just dislike, there's an inherent disgust about them. He's such a malignant narcissist. He's such a caricature of every single thing that is, I think, the worst about certain humanity, but especially men. I remember when he first came into office and there was that whole scandal around grabber by the thing, right? Everybody's forgotten all the absolutely obscene thing he said and he's done, and that's coming from a Brit who's probably a little bit more conservative or reserved or something like that, right? But he is I never seem to run out of being just shocked by the he is the single-handedly the only person I can think of who takes humans to new depths of low depths, right? He always seems to undermine himself. And I just don't know where it ends, if I'm honest. If he's willing to go to this extent to sell out the American people, to take them to war, to put them in this condition, what does this say about the state, in your opinion, of the political status of the political system in the US, Malcolm? Because right now we've had this symbolic, like his own Senate has voted against him in this bill. Yes, I know it's symbolic,
but he doesn't care.
I know.
No,
right?
This man's job was to destroy the Constitution of the United States. That's why I hate him. I mean, I've written five New York Times bestsellers, top 10 bestsellers. 4 of them were about Trump, his administration, and their relationship to intelligence and Moscow and right-wing extremism, right? And that book I wrote, Plot to Destroy Democracy, right? How Putin and his spies were undermining America and dismantling the West. That was 2018, and all came true. All came true. Trump practically, that I'm not saying that he's an agent of Moscow. I don't believe Trump has any ideology other than I will make money. I will make money for me. I will do it for me. I will make money for other people. The problem is you are watching the strength and power, and I am not ashamed to say this, of that an old white man will promise money only to you and your followers if you are white. And if you will deface yourself to come and see him as the avatar who could give you all the riches that you want and will come and has turned America into a nation where we used to help people. I served in the armed forces of the United States to protect America and America's interests and to be a force for good. He has turned us into a nation where empathy is now considered a dirty, disgusting word. I'm very empathetic. I was conservative for a good part of my life. But on the XY chart of where Colin Powell and I were, we were like center right. Now we're way down in the lower left because they have moved conservatism and republicanism so far to the extremist right. They're in deep fascist territory. And as Mussolini said, when he made up the term, fascism is a dictatorship of the corporate-run right wing. And that's where we are in America. Trump is about money. He doesn't care about governments. He doesn't care about secrets. He doesn't care about anything. He is using the tools, the levers, and the treasury of the United States government to loot it for himself and his family. So he started this war in Venezuela, right? Did the operation in Venezuela and saw it as the hallmark. I can just take a country. I can just take it. Venezuela, he didn't take Venezuela. He bribed, using the CIA, the top leadership. And they were told, you can all stay in power. We will keep this Maduro Chavista regime safe. We want one man so that we can say that we have Venezuela. And we want to open the flow of Venezuelan oil. Watch it. I suspect soon after this election, the new Minister of Defense was the internal secret police leader of Chavez, of Maduro and Chavez. That guy a few months ago appointed himself as the Minister of Defense. So I believe that as soon as Trump is weakened, the U.S. is going through its ritual humiliation it's going through at the end of this war. They'll have a coup d'etat. And you're going to wake up and Venezuela's going to go, we're selling every drop of fucking oil to China. That's not your oil. You got rid of Maduro. You got him. Here's all the secret documents, Trump, and secret deals he made. Trump is about Trump, and he is about the globalist oligarchy elite that no longer has loyalty to any country.
Well, but that's why it's such bullshit, Malcolm, because he came on this whole platform that he would be anti-establishment. It's like Brexit, right? Today is the official 10-year anniversary of Brexit. And like Farage or Boris...
It's another disaster.
But nowhere near the same level, was simply that he promised to right the wrongs of the out-of-touch elites, anti-establishment, neoliberalist agenda, all this shit.
But who did he promise it to?
Exactly the same. Well, he's benefited from the exact same system. In some ways, yes, he's been different. He's been more populistic. But he hasn't changed a thing. If anything, he's just centralized it around his own.
That's what dictatorship is. In 2018, I mean, I was one of the first people in U.S. news media. You guys know I was MSNBC, NBC News' terrorism and intelligence analyst on air for 7 years. In 2016, when he was running up in the election, I actually predicted that. I was like, whoa, this isn't just Trump doing this. There is a foreign intelligence agency operation behind this man.
Yeah.
And people for 24 hours was like, Malcolm Nance is nuts. 3 2-1. He comes out and goes, Russia, if you're listening, release the 30,000 Hillary Clinton emails, and actually had Russia working for him. But he doesn't care about Russia. He cares about Russian women and Russian money. Now, who said that, Malcolm? Where'd you get that from? Donald Trump. Okay, you don't have to believe me. This is a man who he thought he was getting $1 billion Trump Tower in Moscow. He went to Putin's representatives in 2014 and was like going to bribe Vladimir Putin, an ex-KGB officer who probably had wheelbarrows of intelligence about the madness of Donald Trump, and was going to bribe him with a 2-story penthouse at the top of Trump Tower in Moscow and lifetime visits to the Ivanka spa. Everything I'm saying is exactly what Trump promised. Not knowing, not even caring. This is a murdering dictator, Vladimir Putin, who may have blown up bombs in apartment buildings to secure his presidency, who mass murdered people in Chechnya left and right, who invaded Syria and let them use chemical weapons. And Donald Trump's thinking, I can bribe this guy with a 2-story apartment building. He may be worth $200 billion. Vladimir Putin. Did I mention he controls 4,000 atomic bombs? Trump doesn't see it that way. He sees people as fungible, people he can negotiate with, people he can buy. But Trump wants access. The reason he's soft on Russia, he wants access to what we believe is $2 trillion of sanctioned money that isn't flowing in that giant oligarch pool of money. And he also knows he's going to die soon, right? So he's trying to solidify his history, but he is Richie Rich. He's just in love with money, and he is willing to fuck America. He just showed he's willing to fuck Israel, and that's where the great decoupling came from. When he said to Netanyahu, "I need this deal with the Iranians," and are you out of your fucking mind? Right? And what was it about? Netanyahu was doing what Israel always does, which is attack Lebanon and Hezbollah. And Trump could see that sweet, sweet money flowing away if he didn't get the memorandum of understanding, which, by the way, isn't a deal. It gives Iran everything. It was an abject document instrument of surrender. And Trump, he doesn't care. Remember, there's a pool of money in the universe higher than any of these political decisions, and he wants it. And if he had to fuck Netanyahu to do it, he threatened his career. He said, when's Netanyahu's election? This November? And then he started talking about, he secretly started contacting the opposition candidates. I mean, Trump has no loyalty to anyone.
No, he's spoken to Natalie Bennett. But based on what Natalie Bennett's been saying, Malcolm, he doesn't seem to be much better. All I can see is Netanyahu in a really difficult place right now. Because on the one hand, he's got this sort of growing decoupling from the US, which Trump himself loved to coin and use during his first time over China. It's not the first time we've heard that word used, but never, I think anyone thought we'd hear it in the context of Israel. So on the one side, you've got the US pressure to stop in Lebanon, but on the other side, you've got the Israeli people who are like, hey, you need to do something about Hezbollah because they continue to attack us, but also his indictments, right? So the guy who has based much of his career, as you said at the beginning, on threatening or the threat of Iran and all this sort of stuff, this entire narrative, it's running out. And he's now stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I genuinely don't really know what that means for the Israeli situation. Like, how does he get out of that, Netanyahu?
Well, first off, right now, the great decoupling allowed him to only care about what Israeli people think. And what happened in the last 3 weeks is nothing less than shocking. Ever since Trump came out and admitted that he's giving Iran everything they wanted and fuck Israel, right? Technically, that's what he said. He's going to screw Netanyahu. The popularity polls of Trump have flipped in Israel. He is now polling at 38%, right? Trump was polling at 64% prior to that. It flipped in 3 weeks. He now dropped 46 points total in popularity in Israel. They fucking hate Trump right now. Now, I always point this out to people who go, oh, by the way, I have people come on my Substack or my Twitter show, and they're like, you're a Jew hater. And then I got Wajahat Ali on the other hand the other day said, Malcolm works for Mossad. He gets money from Israel. And I'm like, somebody's going to have to start sending me those payment, slips
Oh well,
for me
I've
to
been told I
understand.
work. I've been told I work for ISI. I work for Mossad. I work for NATO. I work
Well,
for the Kremlin. I work for everyone, mate. So
I,
get in on it.
yes,
IDF, yeah,
like,
yeah. I work for the
like,
IDF as well. Yeah, yeah.
like,
Me? Do I look like a
like the,
military guy?
no, I meant the Pakistanis. That's who the ISI
Oh,
is.
ISI. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, I thought you said IDF. No, ISI. Yeah, no, no. Because I talked about India sometimes, and so because I didn't always support Modi's perspective, I'm ISI apparently, or the Taliban. I don't know. It's everyone. It's literally everyone, man.
You're the reverse Jackson Hinkle, right? You work for all the good guys. This is crazy.
Oh
Look,
God, I
people,
haven't heard that now in
we
ages.
are, we are, Pyotr and I are realists. And here's one of the things we have to do, because I had some woman on my Substack call me, oh, you're a Jew hater now. It's like, really? Grew up in an Orthodox Jewish neighborhood. First language I ever learned was Hebrew. First decrypt I ever did was
Oh
Hebrew to
wow,
Yiddish.
really?
Actually, Yiddish was the first language I ever learned.
Oh,
I grew up
cool.
in an Orthodox Jewish neighborhood full of Catholic kids. So, but, it's like, hey, as an ally, I will tell you when you're fucking up, right? I'm your friend who has picked you up off the floor of the bar and has taken your car keys from you and says, no, you aren't capable of driving home right now. That is the relationship we have with Israel, but not with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the guy who will take your car keys, leave you drinking at the bar, go out and key up your car, right, and flatten the tires as revenge for whatever you just said in there, which was something along the lines of, Donald, you need to lighten up, right? Trump is a vengeful, transactional personality. He has malignant narcissistic personality disorder. Same as Hitler, same as Stalin. However, some of the things we've learned, he's a coward. So long as actual bodies cannot be shown to him, deaths. He was, when he had Hegseth speak for him at the beginning of this war, when he said American soldiers are going to lose their lives, and they justified it. General Kane said, but that's happens in war. Trump's terror, night terror, is having a 14th person killed in action. Because remember, Joe Biden lost 13 people in Afghanistan on the last day of our operation to withdraw everyone out of Afghanistan. And Trump shoved that number, 13, down his throat forever and ignored the 2,400 U.S. service members that were killed in action and non-combat during that 20 years. To him, those 2,400 people don't exist. They're nothing. It's the 13 number that Joe Biden lost and this 13 number. And he doesn't want anyone saying, you lost 14, one more than Joe Biden. That's psychopathy in how he views the world. And so, which is why he won't use an atomic bomb. Netanyahu might, right? If he had to solve the problem, he might do something dramatic. Trump, on the other hand, is dying and has dementia and is out of touch. Again, this is the same guy that Mar-a-Lago women see as some stud who wears visible makeup, pancaked all over his face, who wears size 52 diapers, who has a noticeable stench around him so much that if you see Giorgia Maloney the other day,
Well,
right, turn her nose away.
I know. I just wanted to say that I was looking at polls just now whilst you were speaking on some things because I saw a good comment about what's Italy's poll rating. So I just want to read this for you and the audience. So the Italians used to have a favorability of Trump, like decreasing shares. They see Trump's rating. So he used to poll about 73% in Italy, which is kind of insane.
What year was that?
22.
That's because he's like Berlusconi.
Yeah.
They just think he's a good party guy.
Bunga man, bunga pies.
Bunga.
But now it's under 30%. So that is a 40% drop.
Because he insulted Italians, insulted Maloney. It's multiple times. F you, Italy. I lived in Italy, almost married an Italian, right? I speak Italian. I've watched every episode of Inspector Montalbano. So, uh,
Okay.
um, yeah, that's a cultural. If you guys want to know Italy,
You can't claim you're Italian if you haven't watched that. I know
you
that.
watch Montalbano. That is a cultural show, right? But more important, and I lived in Sicily too. So, but if you watch all of this, the Italians are very prideful people. They love their culture, they love their country, right? When I would speak Italian, they were like, an American speaking Italian. All right, you're one of the good ones, right? And they would take me out to parties and bring me to dinner and stuff me with pasta. Even taught me how to do pasta correctly, right? I use
Oh,
that
good.
salt.
Oh, well,
So
we need a dinner date.
important factors. You attack that, they'll flip on you. They thought he was Berlusconi. They thought he'd be the fun guy, and now they find out that they don't like fascism in Italy, even though that's the country where fascism as a term was born. They don't like black shirts, and more importantly, the average Italian is very intelligent, especially politically. They talk politics all the time. I can tell you, I was in Catania, Sicily. Here's the three places that I had to live: La Maddalena, Sardinia, which is a tiny, tiny little seaport in Sardinia, where I would pick up my submarines, right? And there's nothing to do but sit in the tiny town cafes and listen to these guys talk politics. And they're very, very savvy. They all read newspapers. They're not on their phones. They're all reading papers. Same thing when I lived in Naples and Gaeta. I lived up in Treviso and had a place in Jesolo. Went to Venice all the time, and I lived in Catania, Sicily. And I got a real education. These people are insanely politically savvy. Most Europeans are, and they know an idiot when they see one. And they start off hopeful, right? The Madonnas, right? The mamas, all the nonnas, they all think, oh, okay, he's very interesting character. But then after a while, they sit there and they go, what's the matter with this guy? El pazzo, el pazzo, cazzo,
Mannaggia miseria is
serie,
my favorite.
Madonna mia. And
Madonna
these
mia.
guys are like, cosa fatto con, with this clown? And then they realize, oh, we made a mistake. They have consciousness enough to change their mind. MAGA Americans are in holy, and I'm sorry, I'll be quite frank, they are the most ignorant people in America. Can they run a plumbing business? Yes, they can. Can they have a bass boat and make over $150,000 a year? Yes, they can. But they see money, right? A rich white man with a foreign wife. And they've actually said this: Melania Trump is the most elegant and most beautiful of all American first ladies. Donald Trump released photographs of her naked in the run up to the 2016 election to the New York Post because he knew men would be looking at them titties and not considering whether this was decent or not. He was here to get rid of decency in America, and he was a permission slip to allow poor white men to do anything they want and to aspire to be rich like him. Of course, they're all millionaires that have just down on their luck. But they don't care that he's destroyed the armed forces. They don't care that servicemen are dead and we have 450 wounded men. They want B-2 bomber flyovers at NASCAR. And they want to go, yeah, America, fuck yeah. I tell these guys straight up, you just lost a war. And they go, no, we didn't. Pete Hegseth, he's a macho guy. He does push-ups with the freaking SEALs. He killed people, And that's why we're in the catastrophe that we are today. The only thing that got changed them was the price of gasoline. Everything in America is insanely expensive now. I'm retired military. I can shop in the military commissary, right? They're not allowed to take profit, only 2%. Everything's cheap there. I went to a civilian supermarket the other day. I just $100 for 5 items. It's insane how civilians can survive in this country. But I was just in England. It's expensive there, but everyone in there pays the same price at Sainsbury. You got to make England money to live in England, right? If I go up to Manchester, Solihull, I was in Wales in Port Marion, or I go down to Cornwall, I was down in, South Molton. I expect when I pull into, the Cafe Nero to pay £4 for a latte. In America, it's not like that. We're 320 million Americans. There are 43 million Black Americans alone. We are being robbed. We're being gouged right now. Donald Trump and his friends are making money. American public are paying for it. $1 billion for a jet that he wants to fly around in 2 years. $1 billion.
We saw that. No, just on that point, we saw that jet from the Qataris. Was it that he just?
That's the one. Flying White House, he calls it. He took it against the law. But their Congress, their Republican Congress, is a den of thieves with them. Early on I'm from Philadelphia. I just came from Philadelphia yesterday. I love my city. We created America in Philadelphia, right? I did a video reading the Declaration of Independence for National Security Leaders for America. And I read these statements out of it, and I go, they're talking about Donald Trump, right? That every charge that was ever levied against King George III is in the Declaration of Independence, which is a list of charges against the king. 5 years ago, National Public Radio read the Declaration of Independence on radio, and MAGA went crazy. I'm not joking, because they thought they were reading an essay about Donald Trump. That's how crazy the world has come. Trump sees himself as a king. And as one of my favorite phrases from the Declaration of Independence goes, right? A prince whose every act defines a tyrant is unfit to rule a just people. Donald Trump, he's unfit, mentally ill. He could die tomorrow, right? And leave us with a legacy of ashes in our mouths. And one man alone racked up a quarter of the U.S. debt, quarter of $34 trillion of debt. Trump is borrowing money. He spends it willy-nilly like he doesn't care. It's my money. It's our treasury. I'll spend $1 billion on a fucking ballroom when Americans are starving. It's insane.
Yeah, but there's nothing to stop him, Malcolm.
There is. He just, these people in the Republican Party are on the take with him. They're on the take with him. They view him as their avatar, right? He's the troll king from Lord of the Rings, right? All the other little trolls. He's big and fat and gluttonous, but he's the king, right? He's the king.
Sorry, Malcolm. I've got images of him just like that now, but also in a diaper.
Did you get your little puke in your mouth, right? But he is. The man wears size 54 pants with adult diapers. Okay, he's got a catheter running down his leg. You can see he has to piss on himself to get it out in a colostomy bag. What is wrong with these people? And by the way, this is why I couldn't run for Congress, because I told people, I go, the first words out of my mouth, all right, would be, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And they said, "Well, you can't do that. You'll be censured." And I go, if I can't tell every one of you to go fuck off, I'm not going to be in government, right? But I actually have a bigger mouthpiece than. Do you know I have more combined followers?
You have a big mouthpiece there, Malcolm.
Yeah,
no, I never would have thought that of you.
No, well, this is why people know I'm not spouting Hasbaro.
No,
do you think anyone could put their thoughts in my head and make me say them? Oh, hell no. So, but my point is that the Republican Party is not a Congress; it's a Politburo. Their job is to rubber stamp whatever the dear leader says. They are North Korean clapping girls, right? And they're looking out of the corner of each other's eyes to see if they can clap louder, right? And then they do that little dance with the pom-poms. It's insane how, I'm sorry to say it, white male America, 67% of white men in America voted for this. And they were promised that they would rule over every person who is brown, Latino, and everything. And now they're finding out that the American system of government, as formed in Philadelphia and constitutionalized in 1873 or 1783, they don't like it. They like the Nazi model where they just take. And people like me are standing in the way. It's terrible that they have to obey the laws and the rules. And that's why we get people summarily shooting people and saying, Trump, there you go. Louder, louder.
Oh, you want the I've got a new thing for North Korea. There he is, Donald Trump. I'm sorry, Kim Jong-un.
Saddam Hussein. I'm Muammar Gaddafi. All right, I can't keep Idi Amin. I can't keep these guys straight. But it's absolutely horrific what's happened to the United States of America. But patriots, real patriots, are not people that attack the government on January 6th. Real patriots are the people who quietly come out and protest these things and are fighting for the Constitution of the United States. And when I have my little debates with MAGA heads, they always go, well, you hate America. I go, my family has served 162 nonstop years in the armed forces of the United States. And then these dumb bastards go, well, thank you for your service. And I go, what? I said, yeah, but you're a traitor to the Constitution. And they don't even know what the Constitution is. They think it's the Declaration of Independence. They think it's the Pledge of Allegiance, right? And then they want to go to New York City to see the Statue of Liberty with a poem across the bottom that had been written by a black woman about give me your poor, your tired poor, your wretched huddled masses. And they go, we want to kick out 11 million people and force no one who talks bad about America to come in. That's a dictatorship. I even got to be honest with you. I shuttle back and forth between Canada, England, Middle East. I'm going to France soon. Can't stand coming back to the United States and watching videos of Kristi Noem or Mark Wayne Mullins at the airport and having these guys start looking at me like they're the Gestapo. Don't like it.
But do you
and
get
England,
personally?
oh, by the way, you're about
of...
to do the same thing
wow.
with your Nigel Farage obsession and elevating Tommy Robinson to the point where you have criminals. All right. And I saw Nigel Farage's interview the other day from the BBC when they were, hey, you want to tell us about that 50 million pounds that you got out of nowhere? And he goes, no. He goes, I don't have to tell you anything. I'm the most wanted and hunted man in England. That I deserve that money for my own security. Right. And the BBC presenter is pushing him hard. Whereas with me, I would have said, bitch, you're a lying motherfucker, aren't you? Now, that would have had more weight than letting Nigel Farage lie to your face. And you are about to go through your own little MAGA period, or make GB MAGBA period, make Great Britain great again. And what you're going to find is the way that you just lost your fishing industry by giving it all up for Brexit, it's why there's no more fish and chip shops in England, right? You are going to now suffer the catastrophe of having, what is England? It's like 89% Caucasian English, using the 6% of people from the Indian subcontinent who are heritage comes from the Indian subcontinent, which is part of the 800 years you occupied that place. And you're going to find them turning on them. You've gone back to the 1960 Keep Britain White movement, the KBW riots back then, which was the same thing. And you are going to get magnified, and then your economy is going to collapse if Nigel Farage becomes your prime minister. And everybody, I go on LBC, London Broadcasting, and I get to talk on those people. And there's all the love of your extremist right wing in England is crazy. They love Donald Trump like he's their father, but they won't leave England to come emigrate to Idaho. They get free citizenship if they did it, if they're white.
Well, and that's what Trump's doing with the South Africans, isn't it? When he says there's a genocide against the white South Africans last year, and all that sort of stuff. The ethno-nationalism that he pushes is incredibly toxic.
First group of white South Africans that came to America, one man murdered his wife in the first week.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we're bringing in all sorts of great people.
Well, it's just because all for the right race and all for the right reasons, right?
Boers are great in South Africa. They do an awesome braai. Okay, their Land Rover Defenders are world class. I would not let them motherfuckers into America to save my life because we got loads of them here now. 37% of the population, 77 million of them in this
Really?
country want America to be like South Africa. They want apartheid. They want racism as the principal function of government. So why do we need to import them? What are they going to do? Give classes? That might be an incentive for some of them.
So what do you think this means for the MOU then? There has been so much speculation around this first talk, Malcolm. There's been so much emphasis on the amount of concessions the US has given. What does this do to Trump's position then? Or it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He'll find a way to sweep it under the rug and move on to the next thing, lie to everybody, make it about himself, claim the wins, sell people out, kick them under, like he has done with Vance, effectively kicked him under the bus first day, like calling it Vance's deal. It's not his deal. He has not, if it's terrible, then it's actually his VP's fault. Where does it go from here?
Well, right now, Trump, starting yesterday, actually tried this switch that he wanted to talk about the things he was doing for government in the midterms and to stop talking about the MOU. And that's impossible. While I can't turn my camera around, but I'm looking at the maritime traffic log for yesterday. 31 ships crossed the Strait of Hormuz, 11 going east to west that were empty, 20 coming out, only 3 coming out used the Southern American version of the traffic separation scheme. I could name all 3 of them right now. Shamrock Jupiter, Legio Exprius, and they went to Fujairah as shuttles. Every other one came through the Iranian traffic separation scheme. Strait of Hormuz is technically closed. So it's trickling things out. That number should be 300. It's not. And Trump will try to ignore this, but at some point, the Iranian pressure, when they say, hey, we're going to close off all traffic again, you're going to find out that squeeze Trump was talking about coming around July 4th weekend is going to manifest itself. And something in the big system is going to break. We're going to start hitting tank bottom in some oil refineries. And he lives in an alternate universe where he believes it's open and oil is flowing more than it's ever flowed in all of history. He's deranged, to be quite honest.
He is. Look at the state of this right now. This is not what you're supposed to be seeing. 116 days into this war, which is wow. I'd frankly stop counting the number of days. Although no, I tuned into your Substack occasionally, and so that your Substack chat with Wajir and your Jacob, I think it is. Was crucial for me to know what day we're on. But yeah, this is not what the Strait of Hormuz is supposed to look like, right?
It's a slight rise, and that slight rise is from when the MOU was signed, and it's all Iranian oil. A couple of other countries have been allowed to bring out oil: Kuwait, Kuwait, 3 tankers from Qatar, and some Iraqi oil. But it's all Iranian oil. But to Trump, it's over, and it's all flowing. And somebody is going to have to come, the money men are going to have to come to him and go, nothing has materially changed since you signed this MOU. We're going to go to tank bottom. And then he's going to go, oh, did you see the interviews with Jonathan Swan and Maggie Haberman the other day about Trump? They interviewed Trump as the war was going on, and they expected to see war maps and him to convince them everything was going great. He's in there with 6 different types of maple trees he wants to select. And then he starts showing them the columns that he's going to have on the ballroom, and he's bragging they're going to be taller than the columns on the Supreme Court building. The man is King George III in his madness state. And if you guys know what I'm talking about, there's a great movie called The Madness of King George. Go watch it. He went nuts for almost the better part of a year, was pissing blue urine from a mental health condition that continued until he was, till he died. And what sent him off? The American Constitution. It was 1783. He sort of went nuts, and he hates America. You don't ever mention America in front of King George III. Now we have King Donald the Last. doing the same thing, living in an alternate reality, and we're all in danger from this, all of us. I'm saying that as a near 40-year veteran in intelligence analysis, and working in media. We are all in danger from this.
No, it's insane. It is just insane. I guess, Malcolm, I guess I kind of want to just come to the nuclear core as well,
Mm,
because what they say is that on June 29th, 30th, just under a week, because what concerns me the most is that we're now in this dispute as of this week, basically, over whether Iran will agree to the IEA access to its bomb nuclear sites. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to say that there's intelligence personnel as part of those teams. Vance said in Switzerland that Iran has agreed to invite these inspectors. Iran obviously rejects it or will reject it, hasn't confirmed it. And so the enrichment question, the stockpile question, verification, all of it is deferred into a 60-day window that's already being eaten up by Lebanon, right? This could be yet another place where the Netanyahu government seeks to undermine it. So what does a failed follow-on negotiation look like? Like, what are the realistic escalation pathways if that
well,
window closes without resolution?
well, the Lucerne conference was supposed to be a one-day meeting of the principals, right? What they call the high-level committee,
Yeah.
face to face, just to say, "Hey, I'm Arachi, I'm JD Vance. We're actually here." Now it's down to the technical working groups. But the beautiful thing is, this is where Trump's derangement is coming in. JD Vance is saying the Strait of Hormuz is open. I'm looking right now again at that traffic separation scheme. Three very large crude carriers that were non-Iranian went through. And to them, it's some like enormous victory. Iran is going to keep that they're going to keep the clamp shut for oil coming to the west, going to the west. It's going to China right now, but they're going to keep that clamp tight. And as Trump and JD Vance lie, and I'm going to be honest with you, I think JD Vance is a liar. I don't think the Iranians said there is no way the Iranians would have jumped up to the IAEA and said, yeah, we'll let them in exactly like the JCPOA in these exact same schemes under the head of the IAEA. Just 2 weeks ago, they were like, don't even think of bringing the Galileo, the representative from the IAEA, to Switzerland. We see him, we walk, right? In other words, this is going to be between us and you. You're idiots, so we can lie to you, right? And we're going to keep our nuclear materials. JD Vance is doing the Trump strategy of pathologically lie, supposedly put Iran into a box where what? Public opinion is going to impact them. Iran doesn't give two fucks about public opinion in the West. They don't. This is for Trump's consumption. And for the West to be led astray by a man that cannot tell the truth, to say, we got the Iranians to agree to an inspection. He's manipulating the market and he's lying to the West. The Iranians come back and they go, no, we didn't. And then they come off like adults in the room. And even worse, you have Pakistan. Pakistan is intermediary. I don't know if you guys have ever been to the Middle East. There's always that guy that will stop you on the side of the street in the market and will go, my friend, come here. Good deals. Very good, my friend. Right? And he brings you into the place. This is the best. This is the best. What is the price? And then, he's the guy that's getting a payoff from the middleman, from the other guy. That's a middleman because he's always talking you to a higher price. But you're the first deal of the day, or you're my best friend. You're an American. This is your American discount. And he gets it. That's Pakistan. Pakistan, I am now seeing, I'm saying as an intelligence professional, I can see where they lied to Trump to bring Trump to the table. Remember Trump was talking to the Iranians and the Iranians promised him an amazing gift. And in the end, a week later, he says it was 8 oil tankers full of oil. And then he goes, no, it wasn't 8. It was 10 oil tankers full of oil, which is another way of him saying that he was taking a $2 billion bribe, right? Trump wasn't talking to the Iranians. I really think at some point he was negotiating with Sacha Baron Cohen as Borat, right? Because it wasn't anybody more logical and we got a better deal. I think the Pakistanis were just lying to him, knowing He's pathological. You have to lie to him to get him nearby. We'll give you 8 oil tankers. We can get this from the Iranians. And Trump is like, 8 oil tankers? How much is that? That's $2 billion. And then Trump came out and said it out loud to the public. They're giving me these oil tankers. Everyone ignored it because they know he's deranged, right? It's against the law. He's criminal. He should have gotten impeached by even mentioning it. So Pakistan is not a good arbiter here, but they know their neighborhood. I bet you they never lie to the Iranians. The Iranians know this game far too well. So I bet you it was the Pakistanis, Sharif and J.D. Vance, who said, hey, we're going to bring, Sharif goes, we will bring the Iranians to the table. They have told us, yes, they want IAEA inspectors. No problem. No problem. All right. Anyone who's been to the souk, I've worked and lived 40 years in the Muslim world, right? Anyone who's been to the souk knows that guy. And he just wants to bring you into the front door. And then you get the special gift, my friend. And Trump believes it. And J.D. Vance believed it. And Iran's like, fuck no, we never said that. And we ain't never saying that. And the worst part is, geopolitical analysts like you and I, we know the Iranians are telling the truth here. Because they don't have to lie. They make money coming and going. The longer this goes on, the closer the world teeters to the tank bottom. And Trump will be so desperate, he will give them more than they've gotten already, which is everything.
Well, Gia asked me last night, what do I think? Can we really trust the Iranians? Why would they have any incentive to pull a fast one? There's no need to. They're already winning. They don't need
making
to do
money
other than just continue as they are, right? Trump is giving them everything that they want. He is capitulating left, right, and center. Mind you, I recognize people. I talked about Afghanistan earlier, and your Pakistani point has just made me think about it. This is the same guy who negotiated the deal with the Taliban in 2020 that led to the withdrawal in 21. It wasn't Biden. He Trump's plan, right?
Key guy in that negotiation, right? Key point. This guy convinced Trump to let 5,000 fucking captured Taliban terrorists go, including the guy who's running Afghanistan now. And he's like, no problem, my friend. Good deal, good deal. But and then you hear Trump saying things like, we're going to go back to Afghanistan and get all those abandoned trucks that we left there. There's a reason they belong to the government of Afghanistan. We sold them to them, right? What are we getting out of Afghanistan? Potash? There's nothing in Afghanistan we need. I don't know. Maybe Trump thinks he understands them with their affinity for young men, but I just don't understand where this administration is coming from. And Pakistan, of course, wanted the Taliban back because that's the leverage against any influence that a legitimate government would have with India. So it's just absolutely madness and mind-boggling here. But, Trump is... Please.
No, I just want on that point, Malcolm, I think, look, this isn't the JCPOA, right? This is not a joint comprehensive plan of action. This is just a POA. It's a plan of acquisition. It is a piece of effort to just capitulate, to withdraw as much as possible, try to distract from, but ultimately Trump benefits from it personally in terms of the market manipulations that his people did how many times throughout the early phases of the conflict. Every time he announces a peace deal coming, every time he announces that there's progress being made, markets drop, markets change, oil goes whatever, and he benefits, his team benefits, right? How many cases do we have on record, on grass, literally, of them selling, there being a massive sell-off?
Every fucking Friday of this war. That's like 20 Fridays, right? For 5 months, 20 Fridays. Not a joke. We were like, stand by, right? End of our show. By 4 p.m. today, Trump will come out and threaten Iran. Boom, down goes, right? The price of oil skyrockets. Monday morning, announces a peace deal. His friends buy at the low, the price goes high. Monday morning, they sell, price goes low again. Market manipulation was outrageous. People must go to prison for this. They were using the deaths and the effort of U.S. service people and shattering the global economic market for this. It's disgraceful.
So we've spoken at length, Malcolm, and it's been a real joy to do so. I guess just to leave it on one last thing.
Sure.
You made in a recent appearance the idea that Iran has us over a barrel, right? And we've been consistently skeptical of this regime at every point. But
Very true.
is there a version of a deal with Iran that you would consider legitimate and sufficient that wasn't just the US completely selling out? Or it doesn't matter at this point?
The JCPOA. But the Iranians know that we're never going back there. You know, there's that cartoon where it has the diplomat leaning over the table with Trump as he's ripping up the JCPOA. And the guy goes, "Mr. President, what did you find so offensive in the JCPOA?" And the punchline is Obama's signature. Because the black guy did it. He's such a fucking open white supremacist racist. He just today, these people were like, Obama is a criminal, right? He got Todd Blanche, the acting attorney general, to say that. They need to go to jail. He got Tommy Tuberville out there. The madness that is in this administration has damaged us for decades. And when a sane, rational president comes back.
But that's because they opened that center in Chicago, right? Wasn't it because the president was there?
Yeah, and because Bruce Springsteen played there, right?
He hates Brucey.
All they could get is Vanilla Ice. Bruce looks good. Bruce doesn't wear adult diapers. Straight up.
For sure. All right, Malcolm. Well, thank you so much. Oh, actually, no. You make me think of the last image. No, you make me think of that image. It's insane. When the Qatari mediator is leaning over Vance, helping him type out. It's like someone helping him with your homework 5 minutes before you got to hand it in, right?
Yeah, that computer's a top secret special access computer. He uses the computer and the combined access card, the CAC card of one of his deputies. And I guess they just declassified everything that was happening in that meeting. Listen, the Qataris are putting up the money. The Qataris were due to, if Iran had really attacked, they would have lost trillions in 10 years in the loss of their natural gas inventory. And now the Qataris are like, we got to pay these guys off. We got to pay them off. And of course, he was there. Let me help you type, JD Vance. You got to make this deal or the Qatari oil industry goes under. Qatar's this big, right? I got to look up the population of Qatar, but I don't think it's 100,000 actual Qataris.
And that's a question, actually.
I mean, the UAE, it's going to, well, the total population is 3.7 million, but of actual Qataris, expatriate 12% of that number, so about 300,000.
Native Qatari, 300,000. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, the United Arab Emirates is sort of the same. I think they have a higher population now, maybe 700,000, but they have 5 million people in that country. My late wife was a worker in the UAE. I lived in the UAE, as expats, and but the Qatar. I always want to point out to you that 12%, 1%, a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of that 12% are earning that trillions of dollars every year. Trillions. They're not billionaires. They're actually trillionaires. They just don't say it. Same with the Emiratis. One family gets it.
Well, Malcolm, I always enjoy hearing your stories and how to say, just deep dives. Your rants, especially. Well, no, rant is a bit mean. No, you're more informed. It's more informed than a rant. A proper critique. A proper critique of the bullshit that Trump is imposing on the rest of us, especially the US.
I think a better term is a highly audible criticism.
Highly audible criticism. Well, everyone, if you enjoyed the highly audible criticism, then do go and subscribe to Malcolm's work on Substack, of course, his YouTube channel, and of course, both my Substack and YouTube channels, if you enjoyed it. But we'll be sure to have you back, Malcolm, hopefully sooner than, what was it? I think 2 months since we had you on last.
Well, we'll see. I may be out there for another event at Bletchley Park.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, we'll have to
do
something in. Oh, right. Well, then we'll have to do something in person then.
The important things.
Yeah. Well, what's mine? This is the closest I have. A jug of what was water, but Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. That was just what
Naughty boy. All right. Thank you for having me.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Take it easy.
Take care.
Thanks a lot, Malcolm.